Fae/Laufey, God of War Ragnarok characters, Norse mythology. Laufey was a rumor in the halls of Asgard, a giantess warrior who thwarted many an Aesir god's plans. Freeing those who they would enslave, feeding those who they would starve, generally making a nuisance of herself in the most noble of ways. Thor was terribly frustrated, he could never find her to fight. Once my imprisonment began, I could only wonder what became of her, and who she would turn out to be. Norse mythology. Laufey, or Nal, is a figure from Norse mythology, the mother of Loki and consort of Farbati. Laufey is mentioned several times in the Prose Edda, composed in the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson. The first mention occurs in Gylfaginning, where Hei introduces Loki. Hei says that Loki is the son of Farbati, that Laufey or Nal is his mother, and that his brothers are Byleistr and Helblindi. Elsewhere in Gylfaginning, Loki is referred with employment of the matronymic Laufeyjarson, Old Norse Laufey's son. This occurs twice more in Gylfaginning and once in Skatskaparmal. In the God of War series. God of War, 2018. Faye is only seen in-game as a corpse wrapped in sheets and later cremated, but is a crucial character mentioned extensively in God of War. She is the second wife of Kratos and the mother of Atreus. Although she lived as a mortal, Faye was, in fact, a giant, Jotun, of Jotunheim, concealing her true nature from her family for reasons unknown. Her real name was Laufey, and, according to Mimir, she was renowned as a great giant heroine, known as Laufey the Just, for her deeds in helping the weak and helpless and opposing the cruel Aesir and their king, Odin. She was also known to be a fearsome and respectful warrior in her own right, even drawing the attention of Thor, one of the most powerful Aesir. Even Kratos, her future husband, respected her fighting skills, saying she fought beautifully. At some point, she cooperated with Tyr in hiding the realm tower to Jotunheim, cutting her off from her home in an effort to preserve her kin from Thor's genocide. Having the foresight of the future regarding her son's journey, Faye eventually met Kratos, her future husband. They briefly fought but ceased as they shared world weariness and soon after got to know one another and eventually fall in love. 10 years later, they built a house in the Wildwoods and Kratos divulges his past to his wife and hides the blades of chaos in the basement, still being unable to be rid of them. When Faye spoke about the Aesir gods, Kratos decided to listen to her stories. Faye even learned about her husband's true nature as a god as well as his tragic and complicated past and kept it a secret from their son. 22 years pass as Faye gives birth to a son named Atreus, although she initially wanted to name him Loki. The boy was raised mainly by Faye, who taught him how to hunt and how to read the Nordic language, among other things. Every day, Faye would teach her son about the different languages around the 9 realms, or at least the ones she knew, and she also taught him archery. She was also the one who made Atreus' bow. She would teach him about the gods and the different creatures of the Norse wilds. Before she died, she instructed Kratos and Atreus to cremate her body and scatter her ashes atop the highest peak of the 9 realms. Unbeknownst to them, the highest peak wasn't in Midgard, but in Jotunheim, where a mural telling her life and a prophecy about Atreus, mentioned as Loki, was and would explain her origins to them. To ensure events turned out as she wanted, she also instructed Kratos to cut down specific trees marked with a golden, glowing hand sign that would disable the protection around her woods and alert the gods to her presence in Midgard. Sure enough, Odin sent Baldur to track and find her, not knowing she was already dead, driving her husband and son to Jotunheim to learn the truth as they bonded in their journey. When the pair eventually reach to Jotunheim, they discover a mural of all the past events that had occurred on their journey, beginning with Faye, who was arguing with her kin. Kratos and Atreus realize that Faye was a frost giant, learning that she had foreseen everything before she died and that she was not a mortal. After her ashes were scattered, the pair returned to Midgard where Brock and Sindri reveal they knew Atreus was part frost giant due to Faye, leading Mimir to conclude that it was none other than Laufey the Just, someone he never had the pleasure of meeting yet wished he had. Appearance. Lao Fei was a tall, slender, curvaceous woman with pale, radiant skin, deep blue eyes, and long light red hair flowing down her back. She wore a modest yellow dress with brown boots. Personality. While Fei was never shown in person, it is clear that she cared deeply about her son, and taught him as many things as she could before dying and raised Atreus to be a kind soul. She also appeared to be a very close and loving wife to Kratos, as Kratos wondered if he could raise Atreus without her and reprimanded Atreus whenever he spoke ill of his mother, showing anger when Atreus accuses him of not mourning Fei. Despite thinking that she was a mortal, Kratos still described her as better than a god. The Huldra brothers, Brock and Sindri, also thought highly of Fei, making the Leviathan axe for her. Sindri, in particular, considered her a special woman and was saddened upon learning of her death. Kratos and Atreus have both noted that Fei always wanted to help those in need, without any personal benefit to gain from the action. Atreus had clearly learned and inherited her kind nature and desire to help others from Fei. While Kratos would very much like to stay out of the affairs of others, Fei would always help those in need, a trait which endeared her to the Huldra brothers. According to Atreus, Fei shared her husband's mistrust of gods, though not without reason. As the last guardian of the Jotnar, Fei had the opportunity and the hope of her fellow giants to restore balance to the world following Thor's rampage. Instead, Fei placed her hopes in her family. Using her ability of foresight, Fei undertook the journey her son and husband would and left markings to help guide them.